sciences, business, and education. Dean Walker is the academic leader for the largest academic unit of the university, consisting of 19 academic departments, over 250 faculty, 5 research and teaching centers, as well as the university's signature Diggs Art Gallery. Prior to assuming his current position, Dean Walker was chair of the Department of Africana Studies at Brown University. He also served as director of the Center for the Study of Local Knowledge and as a member of the faculty in the Department of Religious Studies and the Carnegie Woodson Institute for African American Studies at the University of Virginia. A scholar of African American social, political, and religious thought, Dean Walker has published broadly on the history of African American political thought and culture, African American religious thought, and religion in public life. He has lectured before academic audiences in the United States, the Caribbean, and South America, Europe, and Africa. Dean Walker is the author of The Freemasonry of the Race, African American Freemasonry, and the Struggle for Democracy in America, University of Illinois Press, 2008, and has recently completed the manuscript for his next book, entitled Between Transcendence and History, an essay on religion and the future of democracy in America. He is editor of the special issue of the journal Political Theology on Theology and Democratic Futures, associate editor of the award-winning Sage Encyclopedia of Identity, and his articles and essays have appeared in such journals as American Studies, Boundaries 3, Charles V. CLR James Review, Journal of the American Academy of Religion, and South Atlantic Quarterly. Dean Walker co-directed and co-produced the documentary film Confronting with acclaimed artist and filmmaker Kevin Jerome Everson. He has long been involved in civic affairs and organizations, including serving as the Vice Rector of the Board of Visitors of Norfolk State University, as a member of the Workforce 2000 Advocacy Council, and as a member of the National Advisory Board of the Middle Passage Ceremonies and Port Makers Project. He has appeared on a variety of radio and television shows and has served as guest commentator for a number of media outlets in the United States and abroad. Dean Walker graduated from Norfolk State University with a BS degree in finance. After a career in the financial services industry, he went on to earn his Master of Divinity from the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology, Virginia Union University, MTS from the Divinity School, Harvard University, and PhD in American Studies from the College of William and Mary. He also received the MA from Brown University. I present to some and introduce to others Dr. Corey B. Walker.
Celebration. I had the opportunity to spend some time with Rodney, Reginald, and Thomas. They visited me over at Carolina Hall one afternoon. They paid a visit, and it was a wonderful visit. I almost locked the door and wouldn't let them go because we had such a wonderful conversation. And it's always good to have visitors come in. In many ways, it brings to life what we do in the university, but more importantly, it's always good to fellowship with brothers. And they were wonderful, and they welcomed me to Winston-Salem. And this opportunity, as soon as I learned about it, as soon as the invitation came, it was a no-brainer. It was, yes, just tell me when and where do I need to show up. So much so, this week I was having little panic attacks. I was like, hold up, man. I make sure, let me check on the internet as well. It was on my calendar for Saturday, but I just wanted to make sure because I did not want to miss this for anything in the world. It's an honor to be able to address you tonight on this centennial anniversary of Bivouac Lodge. Truly, our Black institutions are very vital and important to us as a people, and whenever we celebrate a momentous achievement of our institutions, we are reminded that the institution continues because of the dedication of many individuals. And it is the individuals who come together, dedicated to a vision that not only extends itself across the generations, but a vision that enables others to connect up with something larger than themselves. And tonight we're able to do that. We're able to connect up with a vision planted centuries ago, manifested itself 100 years ago in this lodge, and continues today. I'd like to offer some comments tonight in light of this celebration on the theme, Is America Possible? The challenge of Prince Hall Freemasonry and the future of American democracy. Ella Baker once stated, "I have always thought what is needed in the development of people who are interested not in being leaders as much as developing leadership among other people. I have always thought what is needed is the development of people who are interested not in being leaders as much as developing leadership among other people." Now, I begin with this statement from this long-distance runner in the Black Freedom Movement in order to highlight an admirable trait of progressive Black institutions in general, and of course our fraternity in particular. Ella Baker underscores the necessity, indeed the imperative, of a leadership principle vested not in a single individual, but rather across a broad mass of people. Such a principle is foundational for our fraternity, as it is built on a radical egalitarian ethic that recognizes the leadership qualities and potential of each member. It is this broad leadership ethic that is now most needed in our world today. This evening, I want to spend some time thinking about the question that confronts us as Masons and as citizens, particularly in light of our current social and political condition. That particular question is bold in its formulation, embracing in its challenge to respond. Is America possible? I came across this intriguing and stirring question while rereading a classic work by that grand historian and committed activist, the late Vincent Harding. In one of his most moving essays collected in his book, Hope and History, Harding uses this question as an entry point to discuss the prospects and possibilities of thinking and living anew this experiment that we call America. By posing this question, Harding recognizes that the answer isn't settled. He recognizes that such a question requires us to develop a critical probing of the requisite resources, ideas, and concepts that we will need to fashion a political community that is responsive to all individuals equally and equitably. It is Harding's invocation of this question that challenges us as Masons, given our universal commitment to equality and the inherent dignity of all of the human family. It challenges us as New World Africans, for we know what it means to be systematically, institutionally, and intellectually denied recognition of our humanity, and only recently come to exercise the formal rights of full citizenship in this colony. The recent events in Missouri, New York, Ohio, and
Carolina, has raised this question with an acute urgency, an urgency that has brought us out on the streets of our cities and towns to collectively and emphatically state Black Lives Matter. Despite recent events, we still confront a drumbeat of authoritative affirmations of what is central and fundamental about America. It is in these moments of concern and foundation-shaking times that definitive answers are offered and a patriotic fever grips the nation in its absolute affirmation of what America currently is. Despite all of the challenges facing us as a nation, despite all of the issues confronting us as a people, despite all of our imperial ambitions abroad, there still remains a strong and unyielding desire to cling to those old ideas of what America is instead of challenge the very foundations of what America should be in a new century. Such are the dynamics of what we call an American exceptionalism. And it is a form of exceptionalist thinking that enables us to continue on and not critically engage our past in order to fashion a new future for us all. But the probing question, is America possible, causes us to pause and reconsider just what is the nature of this nation that we are heirs to. Just what is the nature of a future nation that we should build? Just what is the vision that captured the minds and hearts of those individuals in Boston in the 18th century? When the brothers of Bivouac Lodge number 503 made the culture and symbols of Freemasonry their own in 1914, they understood that theirs was a legacy of strategically privileging certain elements of the fraternity and advancing the struggle for Black freedom. Within the culture and ideology of Freemasonry, such principles as radical equality, grounded in a capacious morality, reinforce the logic enshrined in our sacred documents of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. But these brothers sought to extend them to those others of America, those African others who came here in the hulls of slave ships and built what we think of as the United States. What the brothers of Bivouac Lodge did, they reflected through the medium of Freemasonry a new conception of America. An America decolonized from a parochial vision of a nation that denies Black humanity and critically linked it to a new idea of America in which the presence and full entrance of African Americans on a political stage was seen as legitimate, was seen as the fullness of the American principle that had not been practiced heretofore. Indeed, the historic adoption by African Americans of the culture, institutions, symbols, and languages of Freemasonry encode the very difference of the American nation. Indeed, what African American Freemasons highlight is a new form of political solidarity and a new form of subjectivity that opens up a space for a new idea and a new expression of America that enables all individuals to come forward and enjoy full citizenship. Freemasonry provided African Americans a theoretical and institutional resource to frame and articulate not only a thoroughgoing critique of a narrow conception of America, but to offer a counter-language of what America could be. Freemasonry, African American Freemasonry, was grounded in a collective experience of those who found themselves ambivalently and ambiguously placed in the midst of an anti-Black and violent racial order. It was in this context that these individuals developed new wells of prosperity, new wells of understanding, and develop deep wells of democratic possibility for all citizens. In my book, I raise a series of questions that in many ways serve as reminders that the answer to this fundamental question, is America possible, cannot be resolved by fiat, it cannot be resolved by political rhetoric, nor will it be resolved by a singular movement or protest across all space and time. Indeed, what it requires are individuals committed and recommitted to an idea of expressing anew a political community in a new space, in a new time for new generations. Indeed, it requires us to confront each and every day that soul-stirring question first raised by Vincent Harding: is America possible? For us, America as it exists, and America as it should be, reminds us of the gulf between the reality and the ideal and possibility of a new community. For our brethren in 1914, America was less a reality than an idea, the substance of which needed to confront the flesh of those who created the conditions of possibility for the emergence of a new nation in the world. For them, and indeed for us, it was not and is not optional to continue with the myth of the American nation as fully realized. Nor do we understand it as an idea that will never come to be. Instead, for those Freemasons in 1914 and for us, we confront that question with the radical possibility that yes, America is possible, but it requires us to continue to work toward a radical egalitarianism that really affirms the worth, value, and dignity of all human beings. What I learned by looking at Freemasonry, looking at African American Freemasonry in a historical sense, was that we need a new archive to begin to fashion a response to the question that doesn't reinscribe us within a logic of the same. Indeed, America will always be contested, always be negotiated, always be up for grabs in ways that are neither predictable nor formulaic. But the one thing that we have to understand, and the one thing that we work for, is that the inherent dignity of the human personality in all of its varieties is affirmed as a viable and valued member of our community. Is America possible? This is an open question that should remain open, so as to challenge us to dig new wells of democratic possibility. It is in the context of our contemporary moment where we have the grand opportunity to begin to revise the narratives and the very structures we inhabit to become a more responsive, a much more respectful community that responds to the plurality of voices who are now and have always been a part of an emerging center, a center whose boundaries are flexible and whose contours seek to incorporate the wide diaspora of humanity. Such is the charge of Freemasonry. Such is the charge that we have as Masons. In 1944, the grand theorist C.L.R. James offered the following prescient commentary: America is at the center of world attention. It is the last hope of imperialism and the old democracy. The theoretical interpretation of the United States, its past and present and future, has become therefore a truly international task, a part of an international struggle of all oppressed peoples. The connection tonight between African American Freemasons and the necessity to draw our attention to this stirring question reminds us of the courageous brothers of Bivouac Lodge in 1914. For it is them and their legacy that reminds us that we must continue to understand and think through the possibility of a new America, one in which all members are part of. A new America where the lasting inconsistencies of those who are deemed outside or marginal to the boundary of citizenship are opened up to new possibilities of human being and belonging. In the space of an absence, in the space of an open question, this is our necessity. This is our charge, to take up the mantle that was laid before us in 1914, but to speak a new word, a word whose history remains unwritten. But it is not, nor will it ever be, an easy task to speak of this word, to take up this challenge, to understand how we conceive of a new America. What we hope, what we ask for, and what we pray as Masons and as citizens is that we accept the challenge. We accept the challenge to develop a strategy of contestation around the term America itself. And in so doing, just like our brethren in 1914, we will speak a new word, a word that does not follow the prescriptions of the powerful, but a word that enables us to make and remake history for all of us. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you this evening.
Dr. Walker, thank you for those excellent words. Is America possible? Is America possible? Open-ended question. Thank you, sir. As Dr. Walker said earlier, the junior warden and the chairman here, we spent some time with him before this event. And there was so much knowledge in the room coming from this young man. But we didn't want to leave. He said he wanted to lock the door, but we didn't want him to believe us. Matter of fact, Brother Poole said, well, we better get out of here now because there's so many questions and things that we could ask you. You're going to have to do anything but kick us out. So we did not want to leave, and there was just a wealth of knowledge there, and we're going to come back and see you again. And I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you that we asked Dr. Walker, for your time, what is it that we owe you? And in asking him that, he basically told us we insulted him by asking what he would charge to be our keynote speaker. But he is a man who believes in scholarship, a man who believes in education. Therefore, what we did is, Dr. Walker, we decided to make out a small donation to the Winston-Salem State University Foundation Scholarship Fund. In the amount of $250, that is for you, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you. And for those of you who don't know, Dr. Walker is a member of Jefferson Lodge, number 20. Is that correct? Jefferson Lodge, number 20, out of Charlottesville, Virginia. He is a member, so he is a brother. For those of you who were wondering, he is a brother. At this time, we're going to move on. We're going to have a brief awards presentation. But before we have our awards presentation, I would like to just recognize a couple of people. The Sisters of Bivouac Chapter, you see these centerpieces and the decorations you see here. The sisters, you can always call on the ladies to take care of you when you need them, you know that. But I think Sister Eva McWillis, Sister Hattie Fulton, and Sister Funderburg headed up getting these decorations in here. And we do appreciate your help, and thank you Bivouac. She's in the chapel. She is also the queen of the 30th district. She's one of ours. And that is Sister Ann. Please stand up here. Where are you, Sister Ann? There you go. That is our 30th district queen. And real briefly, as I look around, as you know, we share a building with 504 other lodges on 14th Street. And just wanted to see if anyone was briefly in the house. We did not want to leave anyone out. And one of the lodges that we don't share a building with is actually out of Walkertown, North Carolina, Red Rock. Where's Master Brown? Is he here tonight? Is there anyone from Red Rock here tonight? If you would please stand. Master here. And top. Good to see you. Ionic Lodge. Where's the Master? He is here. Where's the Master Meter? Anyone else from Ionic? Oh, Pastor Russell is here. Good to see you. Thank you for coming out. James H. Young. Pastor Gray. Olympic Lodge. Anyone here from Olympic? And the last lodge that I hold a special place in my heart, because my father was a member of Salem Lodge, and my mother is now a widow. Sister Funderburg, raise your hand. She's a widow of Salem Lodge, and they always take care of her, call and see what she needs. So Salem has a very, very special place in my heart. Where's Pastor Smith? I see you were there. Would you craft please stand with me? Now the sisters, Meridian. Anyone from Meridian here this evening? Please stand. And of course the sisters of Bivouac, I know you were here. You will stand. Or raise your hand, whichever one you want to do. Good to see you. God bless you. Queens of Olympic. Anyone from the Queens of Olympic? All right. Mrs. Cash, good to see you. Sisters of James H. Young. Anyone from the Sisters of James H. Young? How about the Beauty of the West? Anyone from the Beauty of the West? All right, just wanted to recognize the folks whom we share a building with and we work intimately with all the time. Now, at this particular time, there are a few certificates I would like to give out very briefly. As I said before, I will not hold you here long. But these certificates are going to go to the roster of active past masters that are members of Bivouac Lodge number 503. Some are ill and were not able to be here this evening. Past Master Tommy Dowd is he here?